Hi, today we're going to talk about something and answer that simple question up front. What is Rioja wine? Well, this is Rioja wine. This is a bottle of it, of course. This is Spanish wine. Rioja is a region of Spain. One of my personal favorites, but then again, aren't they all? Okay, so Rioja is interesting for a number of reasons, historically and just a lot of little different things. I want to start with the most obvious one here. Now, not all Rioja will do this, but as you see, there's a little mesh type net thing on the outside. That is called a red, probably pronounced differently in Spanish, but it translates to net. And the other term you'll find for it is mala or mesh. So this was originally intended to keep the bad guys from taking their good Rioja wine out, drinking it, and putting in some cheap crap and pawning it off as Rioja. So anyway, now it's just kind of one of those historical things. You keep it on there for looks. It's interesting. Obviously, this is not going to stop anybody from doing anything. It's very easily taken off. See, just pulls apart. But anyway, I thought it was a little fun thing. That was a trash can over there. Got to keep the place neat and clean. All right, so I'm going to rattle on a bit here. And while I'm doing that, or do that while I'm getting a bottle open. Rioja, of course, is in Spain. Spain went through lots of difficulties in more recent years, early 20th century, for example. Prior to that, during France's downtime, also known as Phylloxera, got that on a different video if you don't know what it is. Anyway, a lot of French vineyards or vintners lost their vineyards due to Phylloxera. And they thought, well, let's go someplace where we don't have this little critter eating up our grapes. And that was Spain in some cases. So what they did was they went down and bought the local grapes in Spain that were already being grown in the vineyards there and turned them into a wine. Love this stuff. That was done in a French style, Francois style, and tried to make it as close as they could. Now, the grapes that they worked with down there were not quite the same, but we'll get to the grapes in a bit. So one of the things that they did do that was the same as they had done in France was used the oak barrels. So that became standard practice. Initially, in that region, they used the very large barrels. Ultimately, though, they switched back to the smaller, more traditional barrel style. So Phylloxera remedy came about by grafting the rootstock onto American, or grafting the vines onto American rootstock. Oh, excuse me. I had a sneeze coming on all day here. So it may happen, and pardon me in advance. Okay, anyway, so they grafted on the rootstock onto the American, keep saying that backwards. They grafted the vines onto the American rootstock and recovered their vineyards in France, and a lot of these French vintners went back to France. So that left poor little Spain there with a lot of grapes and stuff, but about this time, Phylloxera had made it down to them, so their vineyards were crap too. So some got grafted on, some of the local grapes got grafted on, but by that time the market was pretty much gone because France had now recovered in their winemaking industry and was getting all the traffic. No more market for Spain. Years go by, revolutions happen, world wars happen. Comes the 70s. Well, there's some, now that Spain is a little bit more stabilized in the 70s, there's an interest in investing, and they went back in and put some money into the vineyards down in Spain. They're known as bodegas. That would be your vineyard where you make your wine at, all this type of thing, kind of the whole ball of wax. So there were different investors put money into it, and they came up with some pretty good wines. Now, one of the things that they did keep was the usage of the oak barrels. Now, due to the financial difficulties that they were having, they were still weren't out of the woods at this point, what they did to kind of ease the situation was to import wood from the U.S., from North America. So, of course, that meant, and they were getting oak, so they were getting American oak versus French oak. Now, once they got the wood there, they split it up, cut it up, did all the steps necessary, and made their own barrels in the French style. So you have a French style barrel that's made from American oak. Now that adds quite a bit of a change to the flavor of the grapes. And let me get some poured out here. I know you can't taste this, and I'll bet you wish you could, because it is wonderful stuff. Now I'm taking it on faith since I haven't tasted it yet. But this is Grenache, or excuse me, this is Rioja. I'm losing it here. So what they did, you use American oak, and to this day they still use American oak. So it does give some distinct flavors. Now let's talk about the grapes themselves, because they are not the traditional French grapes, not completely anyway. The main grape that you're going to find in Rioja is Tempranillo. This is a Spanish grape, and it usually, I just ballparking it, 75% or more of a bottle of Rioja is going to be Grenache, or I keep saying that, Tempranillo. Some of the other grapes, one of the other grapes is Grenache. It's what it would be in France, but it's, let me say this right, Garnacha. Garnacha, or something very close to that, similar to Grenache in spelling and pronunciation, but Garnacha is a Spanish grape that they typically blend with the Tempranillo. Now, there's a couple other grapes they have. One of them is Mazuelo, which is Carignan in France. Same grape as used in the Côte d'Aron region. Now, one other one they have is Graciano, which to me sounds a lot more Italian, but it's a Spanish grape. So those are the main grapes you're going to find in Tempranillo. Now, in more modern times, like today, or the 21st century, and probably a little bit before, they also brought in some Cabernet Sauvignon and have blended that with Tempranillo as well. You will find that occasionally in different blends. So let's take a look at this. Very nice deep red color, and a little tinge of blue in there, giving it just a slight purplish color, a little bit more magenta, I would call it. And again, beautiful, beautiful color. I love this stuff. Now, I will say Tempranillo is a little tough to get used to, especially with the American oak. If you don't care for the strong oak flavor, that might be a turnoff to you. Initially, I didn't care that much for it, but I've kind of grown used to it, and it has grown on me, and I really do like it. Okay, some of the things that I find characteristic in the nose of a Rioja is almost a dusty nose. You can feel this dry, high plateau that it's grown on just by smelling it. You feel the heat bearing down on these grapes day in and day out until they're harvested. Sometimes you get a little bit of a leathery smell in there, just like the leather off a horse's saddle, riding through the vineyards, picking the grapes from horseback, which I'm sure does not happen, but it sounds cool. Just wonderful, wonderful, dark, rich berry, dark cherry smells, flavor notes. All right, let's give it a taste here. Very, very strong is the oak in it. Definitely an American oak. You can feel the tannins in your mouth when you take a sip. It's the Tempranillo really brings it out, or it brings out the Tempranillo flavor. I'm not sure which is which in that respect, but I love this stuff now. Can't get enough of it. So that kind of gives you an idea. Now let me give you some pricing in here. You can usually find some really, really good Rioja for any place. Well, sometimes you'll find them as low as one ticket price. Remember tickets? This is our movie ticket price. This is how we're pricing wine. So you can find it for sometimes one ticket. Usually you're going to be talking about a ticket and a half to 2 tickets for a good bottle of Rioja. And I'll have the spelling up there, so you don't need to look at that. But it is a very good wine. It's reasonably priced for what you pay for a bottle of Spanish wine in general, Rioja in this case. You're really getting a bargain. I mean, a comparable wine, the body, the flavor, all this, different flavor, of course, than if it's not Tempranillo, but you would probably pay 2 to 3 tickets for in most any other major wine producing country. So it's a bargain. Spanish wine is probably one of the best values on the market. I highly recommend giving Rioja a try, and we'll probably talk about some other Spanish wines in the near future. Now, in the meantime, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I really appreciate it, and I'm back in the groove doing videos again. So I want to say cheers and enjoy your wine. Now, Burgundy itself has kind of a nice, interesting history. It was not one of the more popular wine regions early on because of transportation.